I'd like you to think about the worst speaker you've ever heard. Probably a manager. Might be the worst leader. They're here. Now picture the best speaker you've ever heard. And one of the best speakers I've seen in person is Dana Lamont. I've seen a blind man have an audience of 600 in the palm of his hand all through an hour-long presentation. So now you've got a scale. Best to worst. Where are you on the skills that matter to you? Are you closer over here? You over here? When I joined Toastmasters, I thought I was kind of in the middle. Well, on some skills I was. I'm an engineer. I was organized. But I had zero eye contact. And my body language was, shall we say, modified Italian. So I was really over here. But Toastmasters has helped me get over closer to where I want to be. And as proof of that, some years back, I gave a topic on the sexy topic of nuclear weapon non-proliferation. How much more exciting can it be than that? But a couple of months later, I ran into two students, because this was an ISU class that I was addressing. I walked up to these two students and they said, "We remember you. You were the funny one." Again, remember what topic I was talking about. Because I had peppered some jokes all the way through, mostly making fun of professors. Okay, I was going for the low-hanging fruit. But then I asked them if they understood and remembered my message. And they told me what my message was. That's what I wanted out of Toastmasters. Now, the Pathways program, like the Legacy program, is aimed to get you, from wherever you are, toward the skills that you want. It is designed, according to what I heard at the International Convention in 2011, 13, 14, 15, 16, it is designed to help you move faster than the Legacy program. Now, they've got some things right. There's some things that are opportunities, and that's what I will talk about today. There's a lot of frustrations, and you heard that in Lance's comments. The software is inadequate. But there are ways around a lot of those problems. So what we did in this HPL, High Performance Leadership Project, was try to identify where people were getting stuck and what to do about it, but also how to take maximum advantage of pathways. So we're going to try to talk about how to maximize the value of pathways. That's tip sheet number 1. I'll introduce the information package, stuff on the data DVD. And then when you leave, please look at this list. I have tried to assemble everyone in Division B who has signed up for Pathways, what club they're in, and what level of pathway, if any, they have completed. Leslie, for example, I understand that you finished dynamic leadership up through level 3. Now, why am I doing this, other than the fact it's a spreadsheet and therefore I love it? It's because we're small enough to vision, it is entirely possible that the right mentor for one of your newer members, or even one of your seasoned members, depending on what path they want to pick, the right mentor for that person might be outside your club, or at least an assistant mentor. So by assembling this, I'll send it out to people afterwards, then you can identify who can talk to people in your club about a given path. Because the right person, again, might not be in your club. So we have a tip sheet 1, maximizing pathways value. Tip sheet 2 is dealing with some of the frustrations. There's a bundle of all 8 tip sheets. There is a reference document designed to help you fall asleep. It's 51 pages. That's one of the things in the information package. It's basically the school of hard knocks about pathways. All manner of things that have come up over the last 2 years. It's sad that it's necessary, but at least it's there for you. And then the full information package, and I'll talk about some of those contents as we go through. Now I want to read something that Mira Johnson wrote, because I asked for a couple of people for testimonials. So I'm reminding you of this now, DJ. So Mira wrote, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Level 1 and 2 worked hard, but it was a nice refresher. My most loved ones were electives, levels 3, 4, 5, as they gave freedom, and I cherished the challenge of level 4 with various projects. I would never have done the podcast if there was no pathways. I grew a lot." I'll tell you, my own testimonial is having done all the advanced manuals, I have still found things in pathways that's new. Okay, so there is new content out there. There's some things they have kind of let go, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So there is new content out there for you. DJ, would you like to add something?
Sure.
Then, where you are.
I was looking at some of the things that were ahead, and I like to do that. I like to see what's next, what I can kind of gear up for. And I saw writing a compelling blog. Now, I would not have done that had I not had that choice, and other choices were even further for things I'd want to do. But it was a stretch. I talked to a writer at work, and I talked to some other people, and they gave me some encouragement and direction. And I have to tell you that that was something I would not have done had I not been in Pathways. Pathways causes me, I think, to stretch. And the whole point of Toastmasters is to stretch. And if we were to say, I only want the legacy, even though I know Pathways has all these problems, or whatever, I don't know, I'm not seeing all of them that they talk about. I'm in it to stretch. And Pathways does that for me.
Thank you, DJ. I came across this in September. It's a frank and earnest cartoon. They say the road to success is a long, difficult drive, but there's surprisingly little traffic. Lots of people turn off thinking they know a shortcut. I'm here to tell you, there is a path toward learning the skills that you want. It can have some detours, it can have some frustrations, but there is a path. We've heard about mentors earlier today. Becky, thank you for mentioning that. I maintain that not only does every Toastmaster deserve a mentor, but that it is even more important in the Pathways era to have a mentor. Why? Number one, to deal with the opportunities and frustrations of Pathways. Number two is to help ensure that every member knows the fundamentals, which in the old manual 4, 5, and 6 lessons, language, body language, vocal variety. One of the things I do not like about Pathways, it is possible to get all the way through a path, depending on the path, and not have a project on clever use of language, body language, and vocal variety. It is possible to do that, and that is a flaw in the program. That's where a mentor has to make sure, working with the member, that they have those skills, that they're always working on those skills. And of course, a mentor helps you assess your progress toward the skills you want for your dreams. As of December 20th, I looked and figured out, best I could, in District 15, what paths are people selecting. And the number one path is, to my surprise, innovative planning. Number two is presentation mastery. Dave Morrison and I in Division B have both finished it. You're on it at level 4, I think. Then effective coaching. I'm also on the Persuasive Influence path. And then the newest path, as of now, is only 3%. That's probably because it came pretty late in the game. By the way, that path is not what you might think. It is not designed to make you a comedian. It's designed to help you use your stories and your experiences to add the decoration of humor in your speeches. So it's a little more subtle than I had first anticipated. Now, I can go in, and any of us can go in and look at the Distinguished Program Reports. District 15, for levels 2, 3, 4, 5, it looks like people are taking roughly 3.5 months. There's, of course, a wide range. And best I can tell in looking at this, and back when I was a district officer, I would also look at how long it was taking people to get the different levels. Lance Miller was talking about try to get every level once a year. Best I can tell is that in Pathways, once people get into Pathways and actually do something in it, they move through the levels faster. And that is part of how they designed it. What they realized, one of the things they realized in the old program is that the CC, less than half of Toastmasters ever finished the CC. They wanted to make that first award, level 1, come faster. And that, at least, has been a success. Now, tip sheet 2, which I won't spend a whole lot of time on, again, you all have an access to it. We've learned, we've watched the team how to help people deal with the various frustrations. Why are we in Toastmasters? I submit that the purpose of being in Toastmasters, and therefore the purpose of the education program, is to help you gain, strengthen, and practice the skills that you want for your purposes, at your pace, in order that you need them. Now, until a couple of months ago, Pathways was set up so that you had to finish everything in the exact sequence the software demanded. And there was enough complaints, enough screaming, enough yelling, that they've unlocked it. So once you're on a path, you can see all the projects on that given path. But I've put together, with the help of others, some things that will make it even easier. So, to help you gain, strengthen, and practice the skills. Someday, each of us will probably leave Toastmasters, unless we die first. Build your own electronic library. Just like I've kept all my paper manuals, keep all your electronic files. Almost everything can be downloaded, including the videos that are in most of the projects. 2/3 of the projects have videos. Download them. Keep them on your computer. Otherwise, when you leave Pathways, when you leave Toastmasters, you won't ever get back in to see any of that. Yes, Chris?
Is that what you have on the CD? All the...
Yes, one of the things that's on the data DVD is for 73% of all the projects, everything that's downloadable is there. Save your completed evaluation forms. Don't bother uploading them. It's clumsy. It's possible, but it's clumsy. So we talk about 5 levels and Pathways. They are not the same. There are differences. Level 1 is the fundamentals. Level 2 is learning your style. And that's something that was inadequately addressed in the Legacy program. I'm thrilled that it's in Pathways. Every path requires you to either learn about your communication style, your leadership style, or your humor style. In some cases, it's more than one. Level 3 is really increasing knowledge, and there's lots of electives there. Level 4 is basically combining skills into things like podcasts that DJ mentioned. Level 5 is demonstrating expertise. So the projects get more difficult as you go down the path. You're climbing a mountain toward your goals. There are 59 projects. To finish a path, you must do 14, or 24%. Level 1, there are 3 projects. You must do them. Everyone does exactly the same 3 projects. It's common to all 3 paths. Another project that's common to all the paths is the one on Introduction to Toastmaster Mentoring. It's at level 2. And then down here, level 5, there's another common requirement, which is to reflect on your path. That's the last thing you do to finish a path. Makes sense to reflect on it. There are a variety of electives. Oops. There are a variety of required projects that are specific to a given path, and I'll give you some examples. And then there's a few electives. So you must do 14 projects to finish a path. But you could do 60%. So for your $20 to get into a path, and for those people who were Toastmasters before Pathways came out, you get your first path for free. You actually, if you look at all the various electives that you can get to at level 3, 4, and 5, you can do more than the required number.
Are all projects of the 14 projects, are they all speeches, or are they other activities as well?
Most are speeches, not all. One that's not is active listening. It's kind of clever. It's tricky. You must serve as topics master, and then in between the time you've picked on a victim, and they answer it, and then before you get the next victim, you have to say a sentence or two to summarize what the first victim said. Keep it moving. So you're demonstrating that you listened to the first victim's answer. So there's some things that are a little unusual. Now, in the information package in that data DVD or the shared Google Drive, we've tried to address the fact that in a given path, there's some projects that you can't get to. You can't even see. So we haven't got all of them. We've got 73%. So there's a good chance that if you're curious about a project, you can go in and look at it. So let me try to go ahead while we're dealing with the electronic problems. One of the things that I have mentored several people on is how to select a path. There's a collection of ways to do that. You can look at the titles of the 11 paths. You can look at the paragraph descriptions of the 11 paths, which may or may not tell you anything useful. Another way you can help someone, advise them, guide them on selecting a path, is to put them in contact with someone that's on a path that they might be interested in. Hence the list that I'd like people to update and add to. But there's one other thing, and that's tip sheet number 3. One of the files that's out there, that's with the tip sheets, is a spreadsheet of all 59 projects and the 11 paths. There's other things that's on that page. Okay. So you take this spreadsheet, you look at what paths an individual might be interested in. No one's interested in all 11. So here's an example of what happens, and I can, if the magic of the laptop will help me, let me, I can walk you through this. But here what I've simply done is I've taken the 2 most popular paths, innovative planning and presentation mastery, deleted the other columns for the other 9 paths, and then deleted all the rows that are the same between the 2 paths. So these are the only ways, the only places that these 2 particular paths differ. And it's kind of a common pattern. So at level 2, which is in this color, understanding your communication style, well, that's a requirement at level 2 in presentation mastery. Understanding your leadership style is required, level 2, for innovative planning. The 2 paths cannot see the other project. So if you really want to get into your leadership style, between these 2 paths, you pick this one. If you want to understand the communication style, you pick this one. If you want to cheat, you go to the DVD and you can do the path project even if you're not on that path. Level 3, which is in yellow, you can see here, innovative planning. You have to do a required project called presented a proposal. That may or may not, I haven't looked at it, Chris, that may or may not be something where you just give a speech. It may be something more involved.
Got it.
Persuasive speaking is a required project at presentation mastery. Connect with your audience. It's a level 3 project, but it's required at level 2 in this path. It's an elective, level 3 elective on this path. Effective body language is an elective over here, but it's required for presentation mastery. Level 4, green, this is a required project. Managing a difficult audience is required for presentation mastery. I've done it, DJ just did it yesterday. Did an excellent job, I might say. But it is also available as an elective in all the other paths. High performance leadership, it's very similar to the legacy high performance leadership project. It's a requirement in several of the paths. It's an elective in the other paths. And then prepare to speak professionally is a requirement in some paths, elective in others. So what you can do with this spreadsheet, one of the things you can do is go in and compare paths that you or one of your mentees may be interested in, so that you can see, it's far simpler now to see how these two paths differ. And if I had more trust in sharing the screen, I was going to walk people through an example of this. You can also take the online survey. It'll come up with 3 recommendations, which you can pick if you wish. So before you leave, please look at this list and see if your name's on it. If so, whether I've got what path you're on correct. If you have selected a path and you're not on this list, please add it. Now, there's a variety of things that are not in pathways that should be. Well, the Pathways Mentor Program is not in a path, but it is in pathways. Said another way, pathways includes more than the 11 paths. I know Terry Yackley and I are both moving forward in the Pathways Mentor Program. I will recommend it to you. It will be introduced to you at level 2. So it will come up and invite you to get in there. Then there's a legacy program, and this is something Dan Karlan and I have talked about at length. There's some really good things in the legacy program called the Better Speaker Series and the Successful Club Series. They're not in pathways, but there is nothing preventing any of us from taking one of those pre-prepared talks, modify them to our own skills and our own interests and experiences, and then giving them as part of one of the projects in Pathways. So you use the material, but use it in the Pathways system. Your pace. One of the things that I advise you to do, particularly if you think you're going to do more than one path someday, is to monitor your project or your progress in a natural spreadsheet. You can also stockpile projects. All right, so this is how I keep track of my progress in Pathways.
Yeah, that's never gonna happen.
But let me at least tell you what the problem is. Let me tell you what the problem is. When you go into the software, and you do a project on this path, you cannot see that you've done that project when you're in the software on a second or third path. You have to keep track of your progress outside the dang software, and this is what I came up with.
God bless.
Still not going to happen.
Can you send us that template, please?
Yes, you've got it. You've got it. So those are the 11 paths across the top here. These are all the projects. The green are the ones that I have completed. And then I sometimes do projects that are not in the current place I am in a given path. I'm doing it out of sequence. So I've stockpiled paths. So icebreaker, I've done 4 icebreakers, but I've only done 3 paths. So I've done an icebreaker that I'll use somewhere down the road.
Okay, that's really impressive. That is very impressive, and the fact you're willing to share all of your hard work.
Fair
And now
enough.
I understand why burnout might be an issue.
Yep. But the problem is, when you're not dealing with paper,
Yeah.
it is a real klutzy system to say, oh, have I done active listening?
I love it.
The only way to find out if you've done a given project in the software is to go into each and every path you're in, figure out what level it is, and then whether you've done it. It's clumsy. It's just flat out clumsy. This is my workaround. Maybe there's a better one. I'm just warning you of the problem.
In all fairness, though, you're in more than one path because you're in more than one club. No.
Anybody can be, anyone that's in any club can be in all 11 paths if you want.
Got it.
It's kind of strange, but you could do it.
Spreadsheet you put out there is not filled in, it's just all this, the headers.
There's a blank one, and then there is mine as an example.
Okay.
They're both there. Okay, can you go back to this?
That's on the
PowerPoint.
CD, whatever it is.
The data DVD plus in Rise and Shine, one of my clubs, you have access to a shared Google Drive that's got both spreadsheets. It's clumsy,
Can you see
but it's the best I came up
PowerPoint?
with.
You must be an engineer.
Yes! Yes!
Can you see the PowerPoint over there?
Whether you use the spreadsheet or not, let me make sure I get across the concept that I've come to call stockpiling. Let's say that you want to look for the skills of being interviewed for a job or a parole board or some other interview that's important. So you want to work on the project, prepare for an interview. Logical thing to do. You might not, it's a level 3 elective. You might not be at elective 3 or level 3. You might be at elective 4, you might be at level 2, or who knows. Well, you can go in, do that project, do it out of sequence, stockpile the evaluation form, forget the damn software, go ahead and do the project, get the skills, get the experience, and then at some other point, enter it into the computer. So do it when you want to do the skill. And then there are a variety of things the Vice President of Education can do to help you. That's the purpose of tip sheet 8. So here's the 8 tip sheets that you all have. Maximizing value, minimizing frustrations, not eliminating, minimizing. How to select a path, perhaps complicated, but at least it's worked in the people I have mentored. Ways to learn that's outside the 11 paths. I mean, Toastmasters is more than 11 paths. The crosswalk, if you're interested in how legacy and pathways compare. So if there is something in one of the old manuals, where is it, if ever, has it come over to pathways, and vice versa. So how do the two programs compare? Task by task. What can you do with this crazy spreadsheet that First District 57 came up with and I modified? And I don't know whether the first person who did that spreadsheet was an engineer or not. Probably was.
You must be a nuclear engineer, that's all I gotta say.
Yes.
You're a level above.
But something that Toastmasters did for me years ago is we had, in one of the clubs, a woman joined the club. A couple of months later, I guess I had given a funny speech, and it had come up in discussion that I was an engineer. And she came up to me afterwards and said, "You're an engineer? Where did the humor come from?" Yes! That's what Toastmasters has done for me. Stockpiling, which I've just mentioned, and then some things that base camp managers, especially VPE, can do. So here's what's out there. I'm available to answer questions, a few now, and throughout however long I'm still in Toastmasters. I have my Toastmaster business cards, like Wayne mentioned earlier. My email address is simply Piet, Stephen, S-T-E-V-E-N, @hotmail.com, but there's my card. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of value in Pathways. It is not necessarily easy to use, but it's out there. So the contents of the shared Google Drive or the data DVD, the tip sheets, this reference document for curing insomnia, Basecamp tutorials. Let me mention that. There are a bunch of tutorials that are off on the TI website. If you can find them. And even worse, if you try to do a search for all of them, you'll come up with well over 100. Why? Because the search thing is not clever enough to figure out that you might only want English. So it'll come up with the same tutorial in as many languages as it's there. So it is just useless. Pulled together here, it's out on there, all the ones that are in English. The meeting roles is a bunch of information out there. It's now here. The legacy program that I mentioned, and then all these different projects, 73% of them. Again, Pathways, it is a mess, but it has great content. I've now done over half of the 59 projects. They are, most of them, very well done. But we have to get past the software. So please, as you're on your way to lunch, look at this spreadsheet, look at your name, see if I've got it right. I'll send that out to the clubs. For those of you at other locations, I've sent to your VPEs, when I know who they are, the same information. But just send me a message. We've got 3 people in Pathways, and they're at levels X, Y, and Z. So we can put that together, send it out, so that as you or your new members want somebody who's on the visionary communication path. Well, you can look down here and you see, visionary communication. Well, there's actually only one person that's on that path that I'm aware of in our entire division. It's Terry Yackley. She's at she's finished level 4. So if somebody wants to be in that path, they ought to talk to Terry.
Can I ask a question, Steve?
Yes.
Would you speak to what you did with our club about actually taking a full meeting and walking people through Pathways?
What I've done in the club I used to be in Ogden, as well as Rise and Shine Orators, as well as Rise and Shine, it's 2 separate clubs. We've taken, on more than one occasion, an entire meeting, people bring their laptops, their tablets, and those people who have figured out the software adequate to at least navigate around, go around the room and we go through some discussions, but mostly it's one-on-one and one-on-two help so that people bring their frustrations and where they're stuck, where they can't navigate, get some help in there. They've improved some of the navigation over the last several months, but it's a working meeting, and I think it's been helpful. And we try to capture some of the things that people got stuck about, and that's where tip sheet 2 was born. Say, oh, this person got stuck on the fact that the windows didn't open large enough, or this person didn't know how to navigate and find this type of strange thing on the page. So we try to keep track of where people are getting stuck, and that's tip sheet 2. Other questions, here or elsewhere? No one has questions on Pathways?
I think we would all like to spend the next hour going over your special spreadsheet. That would be a blast.
For my nap.
You know, one of the things they promised us back in 2013, 2014, Pathways was going to be simpler. It was going to be a nice linear thing instead of having both the leadership and the communication path. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. That's what they were shooting for, and I think software kind of took them in a different direction.
I think that was an air ball.
I agree, Scott. But the content is there. So there are nuggets out there, there are things to learn. Anyone want to make a comment? Leslie, you're at level 3, I believe? No, you finished level 3. Any particular thing you've learned?
I noticed on the spreadsheet you said in level 4 there was one project, and I thought there was 2. There was an elective and another.
There's one. Okay, Leslie was asking in the, I believe it was this slide, talk to that microphone, okay? This is what you were referring to? So Leslie was asking a question about this slide where this only points out in each path one level 4 project. That's because this is only where the paths differ. So all the other electives, you could do them whether in this path or that path. So this is, if you will, why would I pick this path versus that path? It's only the differences. DJ.
I love this chart. I know it was a ton of work. And I really appreciate it because I do look around and say, well, what are they going to have me do on this one? What do I need to work on as the Toastmaster? And I like the fact that I can compare and do track.
By the way, I've got it down. In 4 minutes, I can go from the blank spreadsheet. You name, and we could even do it now if you wanted. Take 2 paths in 4 to 5 minutes, can produce the equivalent of this. So you can see where the 2 paths differ. 3 paths if you want to do
Well,
it.
that would be great for a future presentation. Thank you, Steve.
Somebody's hungry and or bored.
I was thinking with my stomach.
Other questions or comments?
I had a question. So, some of these tasks are like, like the podcast and different things like that, or we have, the one fellow before spoke about speaking opportunities. We have those outside of the club. We have them all the time. What's the best way to get credit for those things? Do you have to have a Toastmaster there listening to you?
Yes.
Or do you record it or video? Can you tape it and show somebody to get some sort of a credit for it?
The question, for those of you who might not have heard DJ, the question is, how do you get credit for giving a speech outside Toastmasters? Well, in either the Legacy program or the Pathways program, the official rules are that you can do a certain number. You have to have prior approval by the Vice President of Education, and a Toastmaster should do the evaluation. That's the official answer. Now that I'm not a district officer, I will give you Steve Piet's answer. Steve Piet's answer is, what counts are the skills and the practice we're getting, okay? Here I'll disagree a little bit with Lance Miller. There's a lot of good content online. There's a lot of text, there's a lot of useful videos, there's other exercises. Some of it's a little remedial, but for what's remedial for me might be not remedial for you and vice versa. Go through that. Give the talk, if that's what the project requires. And then if there's a Toastmaster who can be there and fill out the evaluation and giving you feedback on how well you've learned those skills, great. If not, videotape it and have someone evaluate on the basis of the video. It's not as good as being there live, but We're all volunteers. This is all about our skills. You cheat in the system, you're cheating yourself. So focus on the skills, focus on getting practice and on the feedback on how well you have assimilated those skills. So that's my answer.
Steve,
Scott?
I noticed Lance even mentioned your second option. He
Yes.
said people with video their speeches and bring it back in the club and evaluate it.
Yep. And indeed, one of the level 4 projects on podcasts, I believe it is, that's what you have to do. You have to get recorded doing a podcast, and then that recording is evaluated. So that's
60 minutes,
Yeah.
60-minute deal.
It's
Really?
Yeah, it's what it
It's-
said, 60 minutes.
Dang.
several level 4 projects are not 5 to 7 minutes. They are much more involved. And that's why I've gotten to level 4 here and level 5 in a different one. You get to levels 4 and 5 and you got to get lots more effort to get the next step. That's why I came up with stockpiling, because I'm not always ready to take a big step or do a 60-minute podcast or whatever. But I still wanted to speak, I still want to work on my skills, so I stockpile things outside the normal sequence. Other questions or comments? Anything in the television audience?
I have a joke to tell.
Wade's got a joke.
Joke. It summarizes what Steve and we've been talking about. The man got a performance at Carnegie Hall. He flew to New York City, got off the airplane, got on the subway, was carrying his violin, got lost in the city. He saw a man drunk in the gutter. He turned to the man and said, "Can you tell me how to get to Carnegie Hall?" The drunk looked at him, looked at the violin, looked at the man, looked at the violin, and he said, "Practice, man, practice."
Let me close with the following thought. Whether you're over here, not so great a speaker or leader, whether you're a step away from your goals, I have learned that there's a headwind coming this way. It's called getting older. Or it's called taking a break. When I'm away from Toastmasters for a month on a trip or something, and I don't give speeches, I backslide. I have to work a little bit to get moving in this direction again. So there's a headwind for all of us. But everyone, whether you're here or one of the remote spots, you can learn. Now, I lost my mother to Alzheimer's. I am losing my father to dementia. He cannot learn. We have the privilege of learning. We've got the tools, called pathways, to learn. We've got our fellow Toastmasters to help us learn, our mentors to help us learn. We've got the privilege to learn. I challenge you to take Toastmasters Pathways program, flaws and all, and use it to learn.